Good morning. This is Ron Brown. It's Christmas morning. I wish all of you a Merry Christmas, a Merry and a safe Christmas in these perilous times. I'm going to do a couple of things in this video, and I'm going to keep it relatively short. I'm going to do a quick market analysis using the NASDAQ primarily, and then I'm going to show you how you can use HCSI to make some industry groups or groups of certain stocks, and in this instance I'm going to use stocks that trade weekly options, and I'll get to that. But first, let's get into market analysis. Now, where I want to go is I want to go up here to my designer. I'm going to into the market analysis user groups, into the major markets plus. I'm going to click on the warehouse, and I am using the first view here for end of day. So with this view under my warehouse views, it shows the major market indexes, and if I go down here to the next level, it's going to include some ETFs. And the reason I do this, as I've mentioned before, is because I want to get a broader look at the market rather than just the major market indexes. So I'll just go ahead and move down to this other view again to show you what all is included in here. And you can see that there are 33 indexes and ETFs, and I can get a quick read on what's going on. I can immediately see that the Bitcoin Investment Trust is at the top, and that's going to be included in both views because it's not an ETF, but I wanted it in there. And then this one is number 2, shows the ETFs. Look at natural gas. Because it's been so warm, and I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, it was 60 degrees here yesterday, and it's going to be about the same today. So the feared natural gas spike never did materialize, or if it did, it quickly dissipated. Now, of course, we don't like this warm weather this time of year because it spawned record tornadoes this month. A lot of damage done around the Midwest and east of us. But the benefit has been natural gas prices going down. Let's just take a quick look at a chart. You can see what's happened. This is a weekly chart. I'll go to a daily chart. And you can see what's happened here. It was up around $22 and it's down around $12 now. I'm not going to get bogged down in talking about this. I can go through these very quickly on my own, but when I'm talking, it isn't quite so easy. So let's just go back up to the first view. I want to isolate. See, the ETFs are gone. The only thing that's in here is the Bitcoin Investment Trust, and I did put one ETF in here, and this is used primarily during the week for intraday because the NASDAQ Composite does not work properly on intraday because the end of day data is not included. So that's something I'll talk about in a different video. But this is a pretty good representation of the overall market, and this works well intraday. So I'm getting away from my point here. I want to talk about the NASDAQ, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. Now I have intraday quotes on in the background, and this is looking forward to the next day, or it's looking at today, and this is Saturday. Now if I go in and disable intraday, you can see that the NASDAQ chart works properly. So getting back to this VTI, this one will update intraday and it'll look as it should. Now let's go back to that NASDAQ chart. Okay, this is where we are now. This is just a base chart with a VPA, And you can see that here is a low volume test. That was a confirmation of the test, and the market's been going up. Everybody, or many people, thought it was going to break down here. I put out a chart that said if it doesn't stay above this tweezer bottom here, which it did, there's a good chance it was going to continue down. You can see that on this day it broke below the tweezer bottom, and then it closed above it. Now let's go look at my regular chart, and these are under market charts. Now notice it says new structure. I'm rearranging my charts. I have way too many charts, and I'm rearranging them to be more intuitive. You're not going to have these until next week. It's going to take me a while to get them the way I want them, but it's some basic changes, and I'll cover, or it's some changes which are not too extreme, and I'll cover all that next week. So this is a chart that I look at every day, and I've been posting on Facebook and in the group for HCSI, and I use it because it has support and resistance lines drawn in here. These are drawn in automatically. It's part of the VPA function. If you look at the indicator, and I'm using a different sensitivity here, 1% with 4 lines, and this is what I came up with. Normally I use 5%, but that's way too big a move requirement for the NASDAQ. So what are we seeing here? Here is the support line drawn in below the low volume test and the confirmation. Moved up here. It's moved past this resistance line, which extends over to here, and this one, which goes clear back here. So now we're getting up towards a more critical resistance line. One thing about this rally up, notice how the volume has fallen off every day, which you would expect during the Christmas week. So we'll see if this goes higher, if it's going to get into resistance and come back down, test it, scare everybody again, and then take off and go up. Nobody knows where the market's going, and if anybody tells you they do, don't listen to them, because we just have to look on a day-by-day basis. Right now, we're in a huge congestion area. Just remember that the market usually does what it can to cause the most pain to the most people. Now down here, everybody, or those who were getting short, thinking it was going to break, they're in a lot of pain right now if they're still holding their positions, because what happened? The market held, and it held because the sentiment was so negative. Now we're in a phase where everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people have been positive. Those who have been waiting to get in say, look at this, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4 positive days. This candle, by the way, is a lot less than these two, but still, maybe now is the time to get in, and then there are others who are going to wait for this upside breakout. Those with the courage and mostly institutions come in here and they start buying when it's down here. They've already got a jump up or a leg up on everybody else. Now if you are on a chart and you hit the alternate I key, it'll bring up this information, or you can go up and click on this little icon here. Now let's make sure that I'm on the last day. You have to make sure you're on the last day to get the correct information. And I scroll down here. I've resized this box, and let's see what it looks like on this day, which is Thursday the 24th. The 23rd, I'm sorry. So I'll bring this up. We had 2377 advancers, 942 decliners, unchanged 128. Advancing volume 2.6 billion, it looks like, compared to 804 million. New highs 55, new lows 30. The ARMS is on a buy because it's below zero. That's this box here. And what do we have up here? Only down 3.4% from the 52-week high. changed beginning of the year. C is accumulation. It would be green if there were more volume. This is above the zero line, the percent AD, and the direction. Bongo daily is yes. Bongo weekly is still no. Here's your volume change. Volume, I said billion down here, I meant million, so disregard what I said down there. These numbers are a little hard to figure out. Here's the total volume, the last volume for the day, and you can see that it's come down. Now this box over here just shows you the last day information. And if I said you had to be on the correct day, because if you go back here, I click 2 days back, it's going to give you the information for that day, Tuesday. So just make sure that you're clicking on the last day if you're looking at this information box. Okay, let's look at a few things, more things. I don't want to spend a lot of time doing this, but I'm going to drop down to the next one, which is the new highs and new lows, plus the moving average fan, so I can see the relationship of the NASDAQ to the fan. Here's the 200, the 100, the 50, and the 18. They're all stacked, so the fan is still up. The 18 nearly came down through the 50, which would negate the fan being up, but the index would still be above the 200, 100. And I'm sorry, it got down below the 100 here, but currently it's above all of them, and the 18 is turned back up. New highs versus new lows down here. By the way, if you want to look at these charts full screen, you click on a chart. If you hit your F11 key on the keyboard, on a Windows machine anyway, it'll give you a full screen, or at least it does on mine. So, okay, let's look at chart number 3, one more. Once again, the fan's in place. I have the accumulation bar up here, and you can see in this window, it's the market indexes, the advanced decline line for the NASDAQ. And it has been going down. It rallied here as the market went up, and then it was down, and now you can see that it's coming back up. On the other hand, if you look over here, when the market was going up, the advanced decline line was going down, so there was some distribution all along. And then when it broke, you can see it turned down sharply. Distribution, and then this was a neutral area when the market was going up. This was pretty much flat until this point right here, and then it started rolling over. So this is a look at the internals on the NASDAQ. Okay, I'm going to hit my click on this, hit a F11, and it goes back to the window. Now when I do my own analysis, I go get into the indexes that are created by HCSI, and I use my HCSI charts. You've seen me do that, and I'm not going to do it today. It just I don't want to make this video too long. Instead, I want to get to the next portion of the video. And this is something that I thought about yesterday, or the other day, not yesterday. And at the last webinar I did, several people indicated that they were trading options. And the best place to look for options, the most liquid options, is in the weekly options. And I've got this in my non-index files for subscribers to the Insider Club. So what I thought would be interesting to do is I'm going to put these weekly options down here. I just moved it out of here down into this area, and then what I'm going to do is click over here in this window. You can see there are 564 stocks that trade weekly options, and I'm going to click through to a warehouse view, And I'll just go down here to my daily prospecting and go to the end of day stocks and industry groups view. Here's the 564 right here. And then I'm going to bring up the spectrum analyzer, make sure that industries are selected. And I'm going to make industry groups out of this folder. So I'm going to click up here, and I'm just going to go under user groups, and I'll call this weekly options. I'm not typing any better than I normally do. And if you want to put the date on that, you can put pre-pen date to slice folder names, but I'm not going to do that. And what I'm doing here is I am creating industry groups out of these 564 stocks. Why would I want to do that? Because if we're top-down investors or prospectors and we're doing our prospecting, it would be nice to know which of these stocks that trade weekly options are in industry groups that are moving. So now I want to transfer these indexes that have been created down into the warehouse view. I'm going to go to a different view. I have a folder, top-down scorecard views for HCSI analysis. I'm doing this on the weekend so we don't have intraday data here. You can see that, but that's fine. What I want to do, click in this area where the indexes are, click on the warehouse and transfer this information to the warehouse. You can see I'm in the weekly options industry groups, top down percentage price change. And if you look over at this column, which would be Thursday's data, other financial services were up 2.8%. And if you look over here, you can see there's only 2 securities in here. But that's fine because we're interested only in stocks that have weekly options. So what caused this big move? Well, I can change. Notice there are 2 options here. Change to the index group or change to the industry group. I'm going to change to the index group, and that limits what I'm looking at to the 2 stocks that are in this folder, which I created by creating these indexes. So Marathon Digital Holdings was up 11.7. Upstart was only up 2%. So let's bring this one up, and then I'm going to go to a different chart. Now, I'm rearranging my charts. You won't have these yet because, well, you'll have them, but just not in this order because I am changing things around. I'm eliminating stocks. I'm not adding anything, just eliminating. So I'm going to go to my daily analysis charts. I'll just click on the first one. This is what I call expansion contraction because I'm looking at the 3 and 6 and the 6 and 18. And you can see that Marathon Digital Holdings is coming up. There have been 3 consecutive VPA flags. There was a pocket pivot on Thursday, and also the volume point of control turned positive. The 3 went above the 6 also. You can see that by looking in this window right here where that green histogram is going positive. Now I want to do something else here. I want to bring up a weekly chart. This is going to be what's called an anchor chart. And I want to get out of my market charts, go into my weekly. I'll put the support and resistance chart up here. What you should always do, or maybe I should say what we should always do, is have a long-term chart so you can get a reference here. Because the daily chart gives us a lot of information, but this really puts it in perspective, and you can see that this stock was trading around $84 not that many weeks ago. It's come down. The people that chase, the traders that chase, really get hurt at this, and the smart money, after taking profits, they're down here buying right now. So what do we have over here? We have a low volume test, and we have several buy signals based upon a VPA. And we also have a bingo, this gray bar here, which means it's an oversold stock based upon RSI. So, buyers are stepping up now. Is this stock going to go up? Who knows? But at least this is a much safer place to get into a stock. But realize that you're going to have a lot of overhead resistance. There are people that were up in this area that bought, trying to get some of their money back. But still, much safer. And your risk is much less here than when chasing up here. Now I want to go to a different chart. Like I said, I'm rearranging these so you have these, but in a different sequence. I want to look at this chart right here. It's my undercutting rally chart number 2. This takes up most of the space. Let's do an F11 here. And this information that's based upon the filter that I created and I'm using is over here. The fan is neither up nor down. VPE flags, there's a strength down, which means that strength is returning. The description's right here. Strength returning indicates strength. White body, long white body, bullish engulfing, bullish doji. Close at 89.44% of its range. So all that information is contained in this little black box over here. What I'm trying to do is help everybody learn what these signals are on the day. This represents only the last day and why these signals are being generated. Now these light green lines are accumulation days all the way down. They're accumulation days because they're either white candles or they're VPA flags. Now I don't pay much attention to these until the 3 and the 6 have flattened out and look like they're going to go higher, and in this instance there's a dark green line, and that indicates that the 3 crossed the 6. Okay, I don't want to get bogged down with too much analysis here. I'm just pointing this out. Now I'm going to go back up to my basic daily chart here and get back to my main point. Why am I even looking at these stocks here? Because the industry group was at the top of the list. Now let me show you something else. You change to the index group, and then you also, I'm showing you how you can get down to the entire list of other financial services stocks. You have two options. I can go back here and I can change to the industry group from here. Notice that there are now 40 securities rather than the 2 that were in the index. Now these are not in the weekly options list. That's why there are so many of them. But if you look here, you can see this stock was up 13.7%. Now look where they have been acquiring this one. Here's your weekly chart. Big percentage loss, but the buyers started coming in here. Now let's go down. Let's look at the number 2 chart here. You can see these are all accumulation bars, but the 3 didn't cross the 6. So people are buying on the way down, but the momentum was down both in the weekly chart and the daily chart. And then you can see that the 3 and the 6 start flattening out. We were getting accumulation flags here and here. The 3 turned up towards the 6, and then there was a pocket pivot and a buy based upon the 3 crossing the 6, and that happened on Thursday. Now I have scans or screens for these instances where the 3 is below the 6 and it's showing accumulation, and you have to look at the chart to see if they fire. And then I have screens or scans for the actual crossover. And let's just stay in other financial services. I have not changed my warehouse views yet, so you will be able to find them down here under the undercut and rally. Here's the 3 below the 6. You can see there are none left because they probably all turned up. And there were none on Friday. Well, that's fan up. I'm sorry. Let's go down the list. Yeah, I put all these in here for different situations. So here's no fan up, the 3 below the 6. Now let's look at these. Okay, but we're starting to get some accumulation flags and bars in here. So let's look at this one, Upstart Holdings. This one does have weekly options, and you can see that it's under accumulation, but the 3 has not crossed the 6 yet. But the 3 has turned up towards the 6, so I'd be real interested in this right now because there's a chance that this could go. This whole discussion with this will be subject of another video or a webinar. This is something I just put together over the last several weeks. By the way, I believe Gil Morales is going to start using these scans in his files. I've got to get that together for him. Anyway, I want to go back to my weekly options industry group. So let me click on that, and then I want to go back up where I was. I'm in my number 1 here, and you can see I'm back where I was. So you have 2 options here. These indexes were created for a purpose. I wanted indexes of stocks that had or have weekly options. Let's do one more. Automobile index. This was up by 2% on Thursday. I'm going to change to the index group. You can see that all of these were contained in the index group. Let me go back here. If you go over here, you can see 12 and 3. There were 15, and then there must have been a few that were unchanged. I don't have an unchanged column in there. So I'm going to change to the index group. What do we have? 18 securities in here. If you look down this column right here, okay, there's a few that were down for the day. But let's look at NKLA. You can see this stock has been basing for several days. Here's a volume climax. If you look right up here, you can see what these are. Strength seen returning. Stopping volume normally indicates the end of bearishness is near, strength seen returning, and so on down here. That's on this right here. And then you can see that it never did break this support area here. And what happened on Friday? Pocket pivot, or Thursday pocket pivot, effort to rise, and the 3 crossed the 6. Okay, now look at the weekly chart. I don't have information on this up in the window. You can do a couple of things. You can hit your alternate I key, and it's going to tell you if I click on this, it's going to tell you this is the high volume up bar closing on the high. So you can see support clear across here. That's why I like to look at this with the support lines drawn in. So we're getting some buying the last 3 weeks, and it broke out here. You can see it doesn't have any revenue, losing money, of course, but when the group is moving, and this is the whole point of this exercise, when the group is moving, we can see it in this program. I don't think you'll see it in any other program like this. So once again, I can stay with the index group, or I have the option of just jumping directly to the industry group. So there's 41 here. And then you can look at stocks that don't have options. All those other stocks in the index group had options. Now notice that I'm not in the created folder. I'm up in the actual automobile folders because I went to the industry groups rather than the index group. Now I can't. Let's see if I can go back. Yes, I can go back. If I resorted one of these columns, I couldn't go back. But because I didn't resort, you can just go back up to the group. Now here I go to the top level, the auto index, just to show you this again, and then I'm going to end this. You can change to the index group. These are all stocks that have options, weekly options. If I change to the industry group, these are all of the stocks in the automobile group. So I'm going to go back, optionable or weekly options, and then back to the top. So once again, this is another powerful feature that HCSI has that nobody else has. You can create your own indexes for specialized purposes, and my specialized purpose here was to create indexes for weekly stocks that have options, or stocks that have weekly options, sorry. Thanks for listening. It went a little longer than I expected, but